We've been on the road for 3 months now, and we have been doing lots and lots of location switches. So sometimes we have one night in a place, sometimes 2 nights, sometimes as much as 5 or 6 nights. But recently we've been sort of in a 1 to 2 night jag, and it gets a little confusing. I got a little confused. We were driving to Ilfracombe and we had a really long day. Lots of driving, but lots of stopping on the way and trying to do other things in between. So by the time we got to Ilfracombe, it was dark. It was actually getting rainy. It was ready to close down the evening to have a beer, get some dinner, and get a good night's sleep. And we got to the inn where we were staying. We'd booked a room at the Olive Branch Inn. It is a really small boutique bed and breakfast right on the 4th Street in Ilfracombe. The rooms are all individually decorated, and they all have these tremendous views of Capstone Mountain and the ocean beyond. We were very much looking forward to our stay here. We walked in and they have a really lovely bar and restaurant called the Olive Room down below. We walked in there, met with the owner, have a reservation for Jennifer Graham, and you could just see the look in her eyes was like, not tonight. And as soon as I saw that look, I knew it was me. If you know me, this isn't the first time I've made that mistake. So I knew. I look on my reservation and lo and behold, my reservation was for Saturday night, and tonight was Friday. Of course, we ask, do you have anything available? And no, they don't. Joe is the owner, and Joe is trying to frantically think of friends she might have in the business that might have a place available for the evening, but it's a Friday night and it's already dark, and yeah, there just aren't rooms available. This is a destination where people come. This is one of those tests in your marriage. Jonathan has been through this with me before, and it would be so easy for him to lose his cool. And I have to say he didn't. He walked away, he let me handle it. He didn't ask questions. He just figured we'll figure something out. And I'm so grateful. This is end of September. So even though we're sort of at the end of the season, there's just not a lot of availability out there. But Jo was just calm and wonderful through the whole thing. She went and spoke with her husband. She asked her husband to come out and manage the bar while she went and did some stuff. And she came back and she said, listen, I have a cottage that we usually rent out. It has not been cleaned. If you'll give me an hour to go get it cleaned, I'll take care of that and you can have the cottage. We would take a sleeping bag on the floor of the restaurant if you would give it to us. She got us settled with beers and dinner. They do these sharing plates that are just, first of all, enormous, but really good. They're homemade with all locally sourced meats and cheeses and olives and really good stuff. She makes her own hummus. It was just a beautiful sharing plate. So we had a sharing plate and a couple of beers. And while we were doing that, Jo was out there making a bed and doing some quick cleanup and getting this place just pristine and beautiful for us. She came back about an hour later and she says, your room is ready whenever you are. We had a cider. If you don't know, Devon is known for its cider and worth a stop to go get a good cider in Devon. We had the Smith's cider. They were spectacularly good. We headed off to the cottage. She took us in, showed us around. We're going to give you a tour of it and let you meet Ian and Jo. The living room is what you enter into when you arrive. It includes the chaise lounge, a big wide couch, as well as a dining set, and it includes a big screen TV with free cable and doorway out to the outdoor patio. An ocean view terrace with patio furniture. Back garden is just stunning. There is a full kitchen included with a washing machine, an oven, a stove, a microwave, a full dishwasher, as well as a sink, and all of the cutlery and appliances that you could need, and even a full American style refrigerator and freezer, a toaster, coffee pot, and the hosts have left an absolutely amazing welcome basket. Breakfast is not included in the price of the cottage, but it is included for her guests at the inn. I have to be honest, we paid the extra and it was $30 for both of us to have breakfast money well spent. Jonathan got the full English breakfast every day, and I had the Royale, which is supposed to be like a salmon eggs Benedict. But I replaced the salmon with Joe's locally sourced sausage, and it was amazing. Once you come up the spiral staircase, you are in the master suite. It includes this amazing rope light over the hallway and the stairwell. But there's a storage closet right here, and then a full bathroom with a sink, toilet, and a shower with a shower handle, an exceptionally cool porthole mirror. In the bedroom, there is a closet hanging rack, a full-length mirror, an ironing board, as well as a sitting chair, some super cool decorations, and the most amazing sea view you could ever want. There's a king-size bed with a really funky, fun chandelier over the bed, and your towels and obviously your linens are all included. It is so welcoming and so inviting. It is crisp and clean and just charming. The door to the bedroom is absolutely darling. There are elements throughout the house that speak to the sea. Oh my gosh. What could have potentially been a disaster was not only not a disaster, we were big winners. This cottage is darling. While you're here, let's go ahead and take a look around at room number 5, which is the room we had originally booked for our Saturday night stay, and we gave up in order to stay in the cottage. Room number 5 is incredible. Featuring a king-size bed, a wardrobe, an electric fireplace, full screen TV, as well as a desk with a tea kettle and a mirror. There are also 2 armchairs facing out the bay window and nightstands on both sides of that sumptuous bed with those incredible linens.
There's things I'd like to change. I'd like it to look more sort of period.
We think the architectural details as well as the fireplace give it a tremendous amount of character. The accompanying tray of coffee, tea, and hot chocolate with biscuits is most welcome, as are the slippers and the wet shoe tray. The bathroom includes high-end toiletries, a pedestal sink, the toilet, a luxurious jacuzzi bathtub with an incorporated handheld shower wand, as well as an exceptional window view out to the sea. Even the public spaces in the house are lovely and informative. We think that this is a really special couple running a really special business in a really special town. We ended up loving Ilfracombe so much, we didn't leave. So they allowed us to stay in the cottage for the Saturday night reservation that we had in one of the other rooms. And then they also offered the cottage to us for the rest of the week if we wanted it. We're still here. This is such a win. We want to thank Ian and Joe. Not only did you save our marriage and save our lives for the night, but you've really helped us fall in love with your town. It's a beautiful place. As I said, we sat at the end of the evening thanking our stars, and as he says, thanking our angel owner, Joe, for putting all of this together for us. It just shows you good things happen.
And it's so kid friendly and so dog friendly. We do generally like our animals, and we do generally treat our animals a bit like our children.
We turn to Ian for a little bit of history about the cottage and Ilfracombe.
Because 4th Street, doesn't matter where you go in the country, 4th Street, and that's spelled F-O-R-E, is always the first street in every town.
Conveniently, the Olive Branch is right on 4th Street.
And then everything else was built around it. Down there where the lighthouse is, that was an island.
In 1321, the chapel was built as a place of worship for Ilfracombe's seafarers and named after St. Nicholas, the patron saint of sailors. Since the 1400s, it has maintained a beacon to be a light for incoming ships. But in 1540, when Henry VIII dissolved all of the churches, it ceased to be a chapel. In the 1800s, John Davies served as lighthouse keeper, and he and his wife Elizabeth raised 14 children in the little chapel. But after that, it was much neglected, and it wasn't until 1962 when a group of local Rotarians restored it, returned it to the public, and continued to serve as volunteers for those wishing to visit. The chapel is free to visit, though a donation is used to support local charities.
I don't know if the museum is open, but if it is, do go and have a look, because that you tons of history, absolutely. The whole place has got tons of history. How deep you want to dive into it is, you'll probably gain a lot of information at the museum, but certainly some of the locals around it, all these houses at one time were connected with cellars that people used to just run through.
Ian is talking about the smugglers that used to inhabit the city and ran it during times when Ilfracombe was a slave port. We asked Ian if the cottage or the inn had a smuggler's history.
All these houses and little places down there that have got reasonably large windows at one time would have been shops. The one you were in was an old sailing. That goes back some time, that goes back to the 17 something or other. And you'll see there's a little cottage at the back end of the house. That was a stable, and that goes back to 16 something like that. And then they built all this forward. That was a painter and decorator's house. He lived in the front one. He lived there for a few years, and then he brought his brother-in-law down. And then his brother-in-law moved in there, and they started up their painter and decorating business, and ran it all in 4th Street.
So our little cottage may not have so much of a pirate history as much as a painter history. Parking is really tough to find in Ilfracombe, and there is not parking designated for the Olive Branch, either the cottage or the guest house. So our suggestion is that you park in the parking lot directly behind the cottage and the guest house. It is a pay and display car park, and there is free parking from 8 p.m. until 8 a.m. Ian and Joe aren't actually from Ilfracombe, so it was interesting to hear their story and how they got there.
Right, we've owned this now for about 3 years. We've owned the cottage, I suspect 4 or 5 years. We bought the cottage, we both worked very hard, and we was living in a town called Kenilworth, which is in Warwickshire. So when we lived there, we decided that we were working too hard, so what we're going to do is we're going to go on holiday for 6 weeks camping. Bought all the equipment, spent loads of money on all this equipment, lo and behold, skies open up, washed us all out. So we did it all over again, not going to give in, started again, and we got washed out again. So then we went, this is no good, we're going to go to a hotel. Booked into a hotel in Ilfracombe, loved it. Walked into an estate agent and said, what's the cheapest house you've got? So we went and saw it that day, and I said, right, we'll have it. And it was pure accident. Well, we started there, so we bought that, we did a bit of work, and then COVID hit. So we respected the people and everything around that, but we're not going to come down and do all that stuff. So we kept away from it for about 18 months, 2 years. And then when we come back, we found out this was for sale. So we bought this. So then what we decided to do was to rent that out as an Airbnb, and we'll build this business. So all this was 5 bedrooms upstairs. This was empty. Okay. So we didn't want an empty room. So we did all the artwork and painting in here, opened it up as a bar, and now it's a bar and restaurant. We've done that in the last 12 months. By the time this is done, it's quite a big footprint. Oh yeah, it's great, yeah, it's lovely. I mean, it is everything you think it would be.
Ian describes Ilfracombe as a quintessential Devon seaside village with its Victorian architecture, exceptional restaurants, close-knit community, and the benefit of a still working harbour. To the must-dos in Ilfracombe, you can't miss the tunnels. These are man-made tidal pools that are filled twice a day, every day as the tide comes in. And there are literal tunnels through the cliffs that were hand-carved. Tunnels house is privately owned and does require a fee to enter. There is parking for visitors across the street from the bathhouse, and there is a cafe and dressing rooms inside. Damien Hirst's Verity statue, made of stainless steel and bronze, stands 65 feet over the harbor. During his grotesque phase of artwork, it is a controversial piece depicting a pregnant woman brandishing a sword in one hand and the scales of justice in the other, standing upon scattered law books. What makes her controversial is her right side, and that is her half side where you see the fetus in her womb and the skeletal and muscular anatomy of her body. Standing for truth and justice, she welcomes visitors to the harbor and has become a major tourist attraction, whether you like her or not. You need to check out one of the old pubs for a Sunday roast, pint of local Exmoor ale, or a good cider. Get a Devon cream tea at the St. James Tea House, and make sure and get your booking early for dinner at one of Ilfracombe's finest restaurants. How many towns have a mini golf in their center square? Not many, but Ilfracombe does. At the harbor, you'll find fishing, wildlife, and dinner cruises, as well as personal watercraft and a small beach. Shops, restaurants, and hotels line the harbor, giving you plenty to do. And just inland, behind the church, you will see Capstone Hill. This is a completely walkable hill that will give you 360-degree views back to St. Nicholas Chapel and over to Verity. And just one block up the hill from the church is the Fore Street and the cottage and the guest house. Directly below it is one of Ilfracombe's biggest breweries with a huge rooftop patio and garden. And that darling mini golf course in the center of town. Ilfracombe is a cruise port, so if you arrive by cruise ship, you will be immediately in town and everything will be accessible on foot. Because it's a hilly coastline, there is some walking or climbing up hills that might be involved, but take your time, there's benches along the way, and the view is always worth it. If you're here for a longer stay, spend some time listening to live music or going to a show. Look for shows at the Landmark Theatre, a multi-purpose arts complex recognizable by those big conical spheres. If you're driving, you'll obviously use your car to get into and out of town. Keep in mind, this is a country that drives on the left side of the road, where the driver is in the right-hand seat. It can be a little bit tricky, and often we find the roads to be really narrow and a little bit windy, and they have parking right on the street, which make the streets even more narrow. Therefore, you probably want to find a long-term parking space and just leave your car so that you can enjoy the city on foot as much as possible. Thanks for joining us on this tour of Ilfracombe. We've loved this city and hope that you will find this guide helpful. If so, go ahead and subscribe, like, do all of the things, and we'll see you on the next video. We have so much of England to share. Look for our videos from Cornwall, the Cotswolds, the Lake District, and the Dales. A final thank you to Ian and Joe. We so much appreciated your hospitality and hope that we'll call you friends forever.